He called the niqab offensive to wear at a citizenship ceremony, and he vowed to appeal a recent federal court ruling that would allow Muslim women to do just that. So why is the niqab so controversial? Well, in part because the garment covers a woman from head to toe, leaving only the eyes visible. It's only slightly more revealing than a burqa, which includes a facial net. You can see that there on the left. The Prime Minister's comments have reignited a debate about the veil and its place in Canadian society. Is a ban on the niqab a violation of charter rights, or is it a symbol of sexism that doesn't have a strong foundation in Islam? It's time for our Friday Face-Off. Joining me now, Amira Al-Gawabi. She is the Human Rights Coordinator at the National Council of Canadian Muslims, and Salma Siddiqui with the Coalition of Progressive Canadian Muslim Organizations. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much.
So it's such a fascinating topic, and it's one that a lot of Canadians find interesting as well, because we have a ballot box question about, and there's 2,000 votes. So obviously it's something people are talking about. Amira, let's start with you. So the federal government has decided it's going to appeal this ruling. Do you support a woman's right to wear a niqab at this time during a citizenship ceremony?
Well, I think what this all boils down to is a woman's right to choose how she wishes to express herself religiously. And this is, this is a charter right that we have in our country. And frankly speaking, it's not actually a Muslim issue. This is a human rights issue, a civil rights issue. And, I may not agree with what she decides to wear, but to paraphrase Voltaire, I will defend her right to choose what to wear. So I think that's where it boils down to.
And how about you, Salma Siddiqui?
Well, I would, disagree with Amira. The fact is that it is a charter right, but it is being described as a religious requirement,
yes,
which it is not. And
why do you say it's not a religious requirement? Break that down for people that may not understand, and then Almira can give us her point of view too.
And I'm going to try my best
yes,
to do that.
Yes.
First of all, I read a little bit about the lady, and she's been in the news
yes,
on and off.
Yes.
So the fact that she says that she's a Sunni Muslim, and this is, as a Sunni Muslim, is a right. As you probably know, and you've heard it many times, that there is no hierarchy in Islam, right? That we don't have a pope who can direct us how to do things. Yet we do have, I believe the Sunni Muslims do believe in Al-Azhar as the final academic interpretation.
Sure.
And that's where I'm taking my argument from. I think it was in 2009, 2010, the cleric who's now passed away said there is no right, there is no religious requirement for a...
but regardless of whether there's a religious requirement, if this particular woman wanted to wear a niqab and wanted to wear it particularly at a citizenship ceremony, why do you think that that doesn't work, or that she should not be allowed to do that?
The argument is it is a religious requirement, and we are imposing on that, and that's the charter right. As a Muslim, I feel that we have many issues today that we are fighting. The fact that we need to fight those issues, this is also a matter of security, and the debate can go on. And the fact that the charter right, when it's brought in like that, I don't think it stands any ground there.
Amira Al-Gawabi, do you think that this is a religious freedom, or do you think that this is something else? Because I guess there could be a debate about why you're wearing something, and that would be a personal decision. But is that what it boils down to, religious freedom, or just an overall freedom about how you choose to live?
Well, actually, the Supreme Court of Canada has come out on this issue. And what the Supreme Court of Canada has said is that it's not up to the courts in Canada to decide, whose religious interpretation is more valuable than the next person's. They're certainly not going to do that. What they can do is, if someone comes to them and says, I have a sincerely held religious belief that I have to do this, and it does not harm anyone, and that there's no other person's right being infringed in that, or that there are accommodations that are offered, for example, in the issue of security, where you might need to know the person's identity. If all of that is there, then nobody has the right to tell someone what you can or cannot wear. This is what liberal democracies stand for. So the freedom of expression is a cornerstone, freedom of religion is a cornerstone as well. And I think that that's what our courts say, that's what the law says, that's what the charter says. And I think whether I agree with it or not, I clearly don't cover my face. It's not something that I believe necessarily. However, there are people who have that belief, and I think that that we're stronger for a democracy because we allow people to express themselves and have those freedoms.
Okay, I want to play you both the clip that the Prime Minister gave yesterday reacting to this, and then get your take on whether you sort of agree with his comments or completely disagree. Here's what he said in Quebec yesterday.
I believe, and I think most Canadians believe, that it is offensive that someone would hide their identity at the very moment where they are committing to join the Canadian family. This is a society that is transparent, open, and where people are equal. And that is just, I think we find that offensive. That is not acceptable to Canadians, and we will proceed with action on that.
So I'll start with you, Salma Siddiqui. Do you agree that, do you think that wearing a niqab, particularly at that moment where you're becoming a Canadian citizen, is offensive?
I certainly think that it is offensive because the fact that the argument is that it's a religious right, and it clearly is not. So yes, why not do what is the norm in the country that you're coming to adopt? And so I would agree with the Prime Minister on that.
So what about, though, the idea that although you're becoming Canadian, you are allowed to maintain your own values?
How far do you go with that? Mm-hmm. How far do you go with that? The fact that there was some reference that the judges can decide yes. who, you know, how do we have consistency? Mm-hmm. So the fact that, like, you know, it's, again, I'm going to take it back to this lady who's mm-hmm. doing it. Yes. She comes from Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan, okay? And I will easily tell you that, like, in that country, she would not have this right. So I find it a little difficult that as soon as you come in, I'm not sure how long she's been in Canada, but they start asking for the rights. And again, it's not just confined to the Muslims mm-hmm. and not to this mm-hmm. as well, but I speak as a Muslim. Yes. So when the Prime Minister says the Canadians find it offensive, I would not go so far as the Muslim finds it offensive as well. If you talk to the mainstream Muslims, and there are many where you can, mm-hmm. Where you will hear them say that I am against the niqab. Yes. So that's where I stand.
So Amir Al-Gawabi, do you agree with the Prime Minister that it is offensive to Canadians and to Canadian values to wear a niqab just at the moment when you're becoming Canadian?
Yeah, so I find the Prime Minister's choice of words extremely disappointing. You know, and it almost seems that he's sort of borrowing from the playbook of the Parti Québécois that we recall when they were coming out with their divisive identity politics, mm-hmm. and they were putting out the charter and trying to take away people's religious freedoms. And there's also a disconnect that I think we need to point out here, because former Immigration Minister Jason Kennedy had actually come out and said, you know, we don't support the charter. People, you know, sure. This is Canada and we have religious freedom in this country. So there's a bit of a disconnect. It also is a bit disheartening to hear that kind of language when there is a tiny minority of women who wear the niqab, and they are functioning as Canadian citizens. They are participating. In fact, there was a survey done by the Canadian Council of Muslim Women of the very tiny minority of women who cover and wear the niqab, and they have their own home-based businesses. They find ways to, you know, still participate in society, and they are part of the Canadian family. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of divisive language really has no place in our political discourse and in our narrative, and trying to score political points off an issue, of course, is unpopular. But it's not a popularity contest here.
Listen, I'm sorry we don't have more time. Very interesting debate, and I appreciate both of your perspectives. Really important to get you both on today. Thank you.
Thank you.